Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.
What is it about a classic vehicle by the sea? Well, we're about to find out on the little TV show that goes to 6 countries around the world on this week's Classic Restos. With ships in the backdrop and a gorgeous seaside town on the opposite side, welcome to the 2019 Portland Classics by the Bay.
Dennett, President of the Portland Classic Auto Club, have been for the 6 years we've been running now. One of the organisers of this show today, with all our members jumping on board and giving a hand. As without your members, this stuff doesn't sort of happen, so it's great, and our sponsors. 6 years ago we decided we'd get a bit of a show happening off the ground, or 5 years ago we got it rolling off the ground. Started in a little venue just over the road, outgrew that in the first year, and decided to come over here onto the foreshore and take it over for the day. And now we have 350 cars today expected to come in through the gates. So personally with me, with cars, my old man, he was always had nice cars, never had them for long, but always had nice cars. So I guess I got the feel for the cars back then, and growing up in that era of these cars. The classic cars around the Portland district, I think we've still got the record for the most populated area for classic H-plated cars per capita. So for a little place like Portland to outdo some of the Melbourne suburbs and places like that, it's just unbelievable the amount of cars around here. Portland, it's great. Like when I first moved here, I was 10 years old, hated coming from, just up the road a bit on the farm. Moved to Portland, and but over the years, mate, it's just grown. It's a lovely place. Today we'll have anything from like your 1970s classics to hot rods like the one behind me here. Also we'll have a few vintage cars coming today as well. We'll have a fair range of cars that turn up here today. Motorbikes, we'll have a good field of motorbikes here today. They keep coming in and getting bigger and bigger for us every year. Soon we'll have to have a separate show for motorbikes, I think. So if you can't make it here today, look us up on our social media pages. Try and get here next year for 2020, because it will be a fabulous show. It just keeps growing and growing each year.
And to start the ball rolling this morning, time for Geoff. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Fletch.
So, mate, beautiful start to the day.
Yes, nice and fine so far. So good.
How could you not be good here by the bay?
Well, you couldn't be any place better.
Absolutely. Now, Geoff, to start the ball rolling, we have the overshadowed model, the 56 Chev, right bang in between the 55 and the 57, but funny enough, I like the 56.
So do I. The
50s Chevs, iconic classic cars. Big emphasis on the 57s, big emphasis on the 55s. Those two Chevs are welcome in so many garages around the world. The 56 is often overshadowed, but I like the 56. What does the 56 mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, actually. Why we chose the 56 Chev was because my wife was born in 1956, so it's got a bit of a thing to it.
Yeah. It's nice to tie a classic car in with your wife.
Yes, that's right.
Isn't it nice to get to that stage of your life where you've got this toy behind us, which is absolutely fantastic sitting here on the grass, gorgeous backdrop of the bay. Geoff, in terms of history and build time, restoration, what's the story there with the car?
We've had it about 3 years, but the car behind us here is probably 12 years, at least 12 years old since it was restored.
A few little retro mods. I can see some air conditioning down under the dash to whistle
Works
through some
very
cool
well.
air. Yeah,
Yes, works very well.
yeah. That's very nice indeed. And the interior is, well, obviously it's been redone. Beautiful though, in contrast with the external colours as well. Very nice.
Yes, it's very, very well finished.
Looking to the outside of the car once again, it's one of these cars, a lot of the same, where your eyes are in so many places because there's so much to look at with these classic cars. And that's another way of looking at these. There is so much to look at because of the different angles, getting back to that bright work, paint work, the shapes, the styling. Out the back, those two fat pipes hanging down there, very, very subtle, but I've always got a soft spot for me two pipes. I love the two pipes.
Yeah.
Okay, up front, the heart of the nerve centre. What's been done to the 350, Geoff?
Yeah, it's pretty standard, just a bit of work to the heads to take unleaded fuel, and behind it it's got a turbo 350 auto, and that's basically it. Very nice cruiser.
Now tell us about your teenage years, Geoff. When you're in high school, what were the cars that you used to admire back then?
Well, probably Holden's first, and then
What models?
oh well, I had a HR first. Well, I had a Mini first, then a HR. Sorry, Minis. Yeah, the HR was a good car, and I've had a lot over the years.
Getting out of the Mini into the HR, that'd be different worlds.
It was a different world. It was a very good car.
But yeah, it's a funny thing with the Minis. They've got very generous leg room, more leg room than what you'd ever think.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I'm not a small person, but
In the front, I mean.
yeah, I'm not a small person, and I could fit in there, no worries.
Again, it's nice to see a gentleman at your stage of life with this type of car behind us, mate. Thank you for coming and supporting Portland. Craig, Renee, the whole team here do a wonderful job year after year. Of course, there's no car show without, of course, people turning up, obviously, with their cars. You do a great job, mate. Thanks, Geoff.
Thanks, Fletch, and thanks, Renee and Angry Craig.
Good on you, mate. Well done. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range.
In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. The jacket comes off because of the heat, but we've got one hell of a cool car here. Hello, Jared, how are you?
Really good, thanks, Fletch.
That is good. What a tremendous thing this is. Now, this is rare. Now, we don't see many of these. A 76 HX.
HX.
The condition of the car is incredible.
Yes, we're very fortunate to have picked it up pretty much as it is. Yes, I spent a lot of time on making it more handsome in terms of polish, but the car was primarily as it is.
You can really see the American Pontiac styling here bleed through into the Australian design, can't you?
Oh, for certain. You know, it was the prime time when the US were building amazing amazing cars, and we followed suit.
Yes, you can see with the Australian Holden, you can see the side profile and the smoothness in their lines through to the rear quarter and into the front with the front guards as well. Instead of the square box type, they were more sedate, bit more rounded.
Yes.
This was the thing, wasn't it? Back in the 70s, you could tell if a Falcon was coming towards you. You could tell if a Valiant was coming towards you, and a Holden. And yeah, I never thought the day had come where cars of today can come towards you and you don't know what they are. I like the luxury embellishments on this car. You might look at this two-door car and don't relate it to a luxury vehicle, but technically they are. These are a luxury car. You've only got to look at the way that the seats are bolstered and the appointment levels of trim, the sports dash. It's luxury all day long. It's a beautiful car. There's hardly any difference, well, in my opinion, to the Statesman.
No, well, I think they were very, very much trimmed out by Statesman interior compared to the likes of your earlier GDS Monaros and stuff that were very modest when it come to trim and decoration. These were dressed to the max. These were dressed up.
It's very cool, mate. It's a very cool car. Like I said, this is one of the nicer examples that I've seen. Now, just quickly up front, engine, what's happening there?
5 litre 308 standard. Turbo 400 transmission.
Yep.
She's as she was built.
Yeah. It's good that the 308 got a turbo 400. I mean, the 350 was a fantastic box. The little 308 in front of the 400. Wow, it'll never hurt the 400.
No, it's pretty bulletproof, I think. as far especially with my wife as the driver, I bought it for her, and
yes. You're a lovely man. You're just a lovely man, aren't you?
Don't spread that vicious rumour, Fletch. Whatever you do.
Now, just quickly before I let you go, put the theory to bed. In terms of colours, the burgundy red with the gold trim, was that the only colour scheme that was available on these cars?
That was the only colour scheme. It wasn't built on any other car in Australia at all. It was exclusively for the LE.
Yeah. Sensational, mate. Thanks again, Jared, for turning up and bringing along this gorgeous car. Well done, mate. Good on you.
Thank you, Fletch. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here.
That's all right. And of course, Shannons is here, and it stands to see why. Shannons is the leading classic vehicle insurer here in Australia. If you have not got your vehicle insured with Shannons, why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. And when you get a chance and you're out and about online, check out the Shannons Club. For more information, go to shannons.com.au. Moving through Portland, as we do. Time for Paul now. How are you, mate?
Very well, thanks, Fletch.
That is good. Now, there were thousands of cars manufactured in the United States of America that obviously never saw the Australian market. The odd one crept through, although still wasn't for sale here, but in this case, a 68 Futura. Nice car.
It is. It was a nice whole thing. I saw it for sale through Bennett's auctions in Adelaide. They ran it through evidently 3 or 4 times, didn't sell. I rang up with a ridiculous offer. The man said, go away. And about 2 months later rang me and said, come and pick it up.
Very cool, Paul. Such a different car. And when we look back at our times here in Australia, the late 60s, we were a small market anyway. But when it got to a two-door car market, we were even smaller. Valiant gave it a red-hot go with the VF and VG. And, of course, our first-shape Monaros were popular too. But this car, the two-door in the equivalent of the XT Falcon, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep. Evidently they produced one here in Australia that was made for, I presume, the managing director of Ford at the time. Had a Funk 428 or some monster in it.
Yep.
I believe it's still around. I don't know the story on it, but no, I just saw it as something totally different.
Yeah. I like these cars, and when you have a look at them, very, very Galaxy. You can see Galaxy shaping and styling has gone through to this Mustang-bred, well, Falcon of that era. We look around the taillights, you can see it. Across the dashboard as well. Of course, there's a lot of American influence. This particular car built in Canada, would that be correct?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. I got it from Texas. Well, I didn't get it from Texas, but the previous owner got it from Texas. Yeah. But I do believe, yeah, a Canadian car.
Nice to see, still left hook as well.
Yes, yeah. I had great plans. I had an XR that I was going to put everything into it, but after driving it a few times, no, not going to bother.
Now we can also see the height of the front bucket seats, very XWXY. These ones thicker in the bolster. They're definitely fatter than what we got here in Australia.
Yeah, well, It went to Texas. They're big boys in Texas, so they needed the bigger seats.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
That's right. And if you're watching in Texas, very cool. Don't mess with Texas. That's what they say there.
Absolutely not.
I just love the shape of these cars, the American derivatives. The Falcon here was just so successful in Australia. When the XR came out, the XC, they just got better. And obviously, they were influenced by the platform of this very car here.
Yep. Look, the XR, XT, XW, XY, absolutely beautiful car. If they reproduce them today, I have no doubt they would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah. Engine up front, what have you got going on?
The stock standard 289. Yep. The transmission is evidently they only ran the gearbox for 2 years. They call it a snow box.
And of course in America as well, yeah, all the 6 cylinders too, the 221 or the 3.6 litre that we had here. The 289 though, I mean that was the gun little V8, wasn't it?
Yes, it was just a sweet little thing, mate. It absolutely was.
It wasn't huge on power, but it could rev.
It sounded good and it revved.
Paul, it's been great talking to you.
Good, mate, thank you.
It's nice to hear that you're very enthusiastic about your car.
I do, I love it, but it's just a plain Jane. But I love it.
But I think that's what we love about them. Isn't that right? With some of our older cars, they are plain. They're not all luxuriously appointed, but they were honest cars. Simplicity ruled back then, where they did many hundreds of thousands of miles, and they fitted so many genres of workplace duties, whether they were the major car for a family or they ran the kids to school. It might have been a company car for a corporation. It might have been a sales rep's car. The list goes on of what our older basic model cars did.
Yep, very true. And this is probably a typical example of just a plain Jane car that someone's fallen in love with.
Well, very cool being a two-door. Nice catching up with you, Paul.
Good on you, mate. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannons Home and Contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannons.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. You know, it's great to find a classic, maybe a wreck, but one from the Northern Territory, out in the centre of the country, up on its side. I've never seen anything like this before. How you doing, Dave?
I'm very well, Fletch. How's yourself?
Good, mate, good. I'm going to need CGI in production to make this look good.
It'll need a lot to make it look shiny anyway.
Absolutely incredible. The whole thing's full of bullet holes. Someone has had a lot of fun with the car way out west. This is absolutely amazing. Tell us a story on it.
Yeah, well, it's a 1970 VG Pacer two-door or a hardtop. I found it, I heard about it out bush in Alice Springs in 2002 when I first moved there. Traced it, couldn't find it, put the word out, and then it appeared in Australian Muscle Car magazine, 2012. I wrote a letter to the editors, asked them if they'd pass my details on to whoever sent the photo in. They did that, and it turned out to be one of my mates. He contacted me, told me where it was. I then spent the next 8 or 9 months contacting the cattle station that the car was on, because I didn't want to go on private property, don't want to break the law. Got permission to go and have a look at it, and if I wanted it, go and grab it. And that was Christmas Eve. Went Australia Day 2013 and retrieved the car from out bush. Initially I got it home and ummed and ahed what I was going to do with it because I've got quite a few projects. At the time, the thought was to slice it in half and put it on the wall as a decoration piece. So to do that, I had to find mud guards and doors to match the patina. I traced all of those over the years, and then, last year I was building a car for a mate for Red Shannons, and that build fell over around Easter. So I thought, well, I've got enough bits to make this car on the road, so I decided to do that. So she's all numbers matching, correct date coded 1970 Pacer engine, correct Pacer gearbox, correct diff, hubcaps, the front seats, everything's Pacer on the car, except for the rims and the back seat.
David, I don't believe that anyone's ever done this before. If they have, I'm yet to meet them, apart from this guy here. What you've done here is incredible. History tells me that most of the cars that ended their lives in the Northern Territory, in the middle of nowhere, never resurfaced, and really they just stayed there for many, many years after. Apparently there's a lot. Like I've been to the Territory a few times, and you see the odd one, but more than what we think?
There is a lot out there. I worked in Indigenous health, so I actually travel a lot of the countryside, and I see a lot of cars. Like I know where there's actually genuine GT Falcons. Haven't been able to trace back the owners, so I've left them where they are and not said a word. I know where there's GTS Monaros, all that sort of stuff. But until you find the owners, I don't want to touch them, because in my eyes, that's theft.
It's absolutely all day long. And in all due respects to our Indigenous people, using the cars, talk about a testament to the product. I mean, at the end of the day, what those cars get put through and the condition that they're being driven in, right through to the end, it's amazing what a four-door passenger car can withstand, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like, having worked out there and still do, the roads can be pretty horrendous, and they get used and abused. But the older cars, they just kept going.
Dave, tell us the story on the bullet holes here, mate. This has had more hits than Elvis.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I probably should have done a count while I was doing it, but at a guess, between the bullet holes and the shotgun pellet marks, there's probably 300 or 400 marks on it. Some of them big fellas. There's one that went through the bumper bar and actually went through the K-frame. There's a large one in the rear C-pillar, as you mentioned. A lot of solid shotgun marks through the car. But yeah, a lot of marks, a lot of holes.
Pardon the pun, this car is shot.
It is. It's not a survivor, but it did survive.
I think it's absolutely amazing the work that you've done to it. Okay, now it's a drivable car. Now, please, I don't mean this to be a ridiculous question. How does it drive?
It drives true and straight, to be honest. I was surprised at that myself, because it initially did have the rear suspension tore out of it. I measured it all up before I re-welded it back in, and the first drive was 3 days before the first event I went to, and it surprised me that it drove so straight.
Dave, wonderful catching up with you, mate.
Cheers, matey. You have a great day.
Yes, and all due respect to yourself, working with the Indigenous people, good on you for doing that and preserving this car. I don't know about you watching this, but I've never seen anything like it. Oh, and it's nice to see, before you go, you've coated it in clear. You've put lots of clear on it to protect the rust from the bullet holes. Well done.
Yeah, there's 4 litres of clear and 3 litres of flattening agent, so there's 7 litres of paint on top of it.
Well done, mate. It's a credit to you.
Cheers.
Time now for a classic Holden, a 48215. How you doing, Tony?
Yeah, good, thanks, Fletch. And yourself?
Good, mate, good. I had to pick on you. This car, it jumped out at me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, do our best to keep it tidy and looking original, and yeah, a few period accessories on it, and yeah, hopefully other people enjoy it. Yeah,
absolutely. There's just something about the originality here. Okay, now 48215 FX Holden. Now, what year are we looking at, Tony?
This one here's a 52, which is nearing the end of the production run. It ran from 48 to 53 when the FJ was introduced. Yep. So we were getting towards the end of the production run of the FX. Yeah,
a few subtle changes with the FJ. Do you know the differences?
Yeah, they in the FJ they went to telescopic shocks instead of the knee action shocks. I think they had wider rear springs, some trim differences, but you know, as a whole the body remained the same, and they're very, very durable and reliable car. Yeah.
I think this car back in 1952 would have been a very proud owner. We've got a factory radio sitting in the dash. Wow.
Yes, he certainly would have been the talk of the street, I'd imagine, Fletch. Yes.
Tony, I think it's lovely how you've brought this car down onto the sand. It just gives the backdrop perfectly. It makes you think, families back in the day, probably took the odd Holden onto the sand, had the picnic, put the rug out on the sand, and you know, it was in a different time, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Yeah, there seemed to be more time. People took more time.
See, these cars, it's almost like well, a Model T Ford was in a different category again, but these old girls will go anywhere. You've got the clearance, you've got the ride height. They'll go down a little embankment. They'll go places that late model cars won't.
Yes, for sure. They certainly had more ground clearance than a lot of the competitors at the time, and with the torque that they produced with the six-cylinder engine, they were renowned for going anywhere. You know, we didn't have the best roads in Australia at the time, and they stood up to the test quite well. Yeah.
I think the basic driveline on these cars, that beautiful little 3-speed Holden gearbox, so simple to use. As you said earlier, off camera, putting around town in second gear everywhere, obviously because of low gearing. They were torquey for what they were. And on that note, before 138, well, 132.8, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right, Fletch. Yeah, just a little bit smaller than the 138. Yeah, they're the 132. Yeah, for the first few models. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? We made a car, we sold it to the people, but you had no choice of engine. That was the engine, and everybody just accepted that.
Yeah, and we're more than happy with it. Yeah, for sure. And one transmission, no synchromesh on first, but that's what there was, and that's what people loved. You know, they enjoyed it. Yeah.
Tony, thank you so much for bringing the car down here in between the seagulls here, mate. You've done a splendid job here this afternoon.
Fletch. No, thank you. Thanks for the chat, and glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
It's okay. Thanks for sharing it with us, mate.
Thanks very much, Fletch. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Well, there you go. Just some of the 2019 Portland Classics by the Bay. Check social media pages and try and get here for 2020. It'll be well worth your while if you can. As I say at the end of every episode of Classic Restos, no matter where you're watching the show from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.